Heyo everyone, this is the HappyAnimaidCafeManager here with another walkthrough episode for the game Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. So right now I'm back at the part where I choose the option to show evidence or cannot show evidence that proves who really killed Neil Marshall. I'm going to go with cannot show evidence. Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I can present at this point in time. What? You lie! Chief Gant, you opened my safe. I know what you took was inside. The conclusive evidence. I don't know what you're talking about. Mr. Wright, why don't you show them? We found it together. Oh, I see. It's because you know the truth, don't you? You know whose fingerprints are on it. That's why you won't present it. What are you talking about, Chief Gant? Can't you figure it out? Take a good look at this picture. See the victim's vest? Notice anything on about the chest area? Looks like a part of it's been cut off for some reason. I'm gonna rest my throat so there won't be any of my ridiculous voice acting. In case some of you were concluding that. Anyway. It's been cut off for some reason. You mean you had this in your safe? What? That means you, the chief of police, concealing evidence? This is going to be the biggest scandal in history of the police department. Impressive. To be honest, I didn't think you had the gall, Wright-o. Well, I can't just let you pin me up as the murderer. I'll tell you what really happened. What? You mean you admit to it? I was the first person to arrive at the crime scene that day. It occurred to me that I could use the situation to control Lana. So you really were manipulating her. I knew Lana. If I made it look like the blame lay with her sister, that when she saw the scene, she would ask me for my aid. So you assisted Miss Guy. I told her to arrange all the evidence. I had her plant a knife tip in the victim's body and move the body across the room. And I ended up using that evidence to get Joe Dark convicted. When we rearranged the crime scene, I hid 2 pieces of evidence. I did this before Lana arrived at the scene. 2 pieces of evidence. You mean those items in your safe? But why? For insurance, of course. Insurance? I was sure my plan would work, but it's always best to be prepared for the worst. I wasn't about to let anyone blame me for a murder that girl committed. You mean you were calculating that far ahead while forging the evidence? Who do you take me for? A fool? I didn't make police chief by dumb luck. See this jar fragment? I hid the most illegal hid the most legible part of Emma's name. I didn't expect Lana to go and wipe the blood off all the pieces. But if you fabricated all the evidence, what's this say you didn't fabricate the message on this jar too? Ho 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 ho! Some people just don't know when to quit, do they? That's why I kept one more item for insurance. You mean that piece of cloth? Come on, Wright-o, cough it up already. I know you have it. What are you waiting for, Mr. Wright? So you admit to it then, Chief Gant, that you were hiding the cloth that you cut off the victim's vest in your safe. Yes, I admit it. I didn't want to have to do it. I didn't have to do that being cheap and all, but it's a lot better than being portrayed as a murderer. Well, Mr. Wright, what do you have to say for yourself? Just a moment ago, you said you didn't have any evidence you could present. Foolish move, Wright-o. You should have shown it then before it was too late. It's been a long battle. But the moment of truth has finally arrived. As long as I don't mess up here, victory is mine. No, it's too late to show the evidence now. Besides, even if I did, it just exposed that poor girl's fingerprints, right? Think hard over the circumstances. I'm talking about then and now. There's one major difference between the two. Weren't you waiting for that difference? So, Edgeworth figured out my plan. Ugh, man, I get penalized anyway. Mr. Wright, this is your only chance. Your Honor, I do have evidence to present now. Alright, let's see this conclusive evidence. The evidence that shows who actually murdered Prosecutor Marshall. I've already explained this in the last episode. And if I were to show this piece of cloth, man, I'm too scared to present the strip of cloth, but it's too late now. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Oh, yes. At last, you finally brought it out into the open. There's a handprint on this piece of cloth. Your Honor, the prosecution requests that be immediately sent to the lab for analysis. This handprint on the leather, there must have been a strong impact for it to be left so clearly. You mean it could not have been forged? It must be authentic, conclusive evidence. Ho ho ho! You're as slow on the uptake as ever, Worthy. What? Think about it. Wright had all this time to present this evidence. Yeah, he was reluctant to do so. Why would that be? You mean you already know? You know whose fingerprints are on that? Mr. Wright, do you really know? Whoever the fingerprints must belong to must be the real murderer. Whose fingerprints are they? Very well, I'll tell you. It should be okay now. Everything's proceeding as predicted. The person whom these fingerprints belong to are... Emma, Sky? What? They're mine? I'm sorry, Emma, but why? Why didn't you tell me? Oh, you're really something, Righto. You knew this girl did it all along, and you still try to pin the murder on me. So it's true, tragic but true. This girl really did shove Prosecutor Marshall to his death. How could you? You monster! Miss Sky, you knew those fingerprints, those were all along, yet you acted like she really didn't. Miss Sky, it's not over yet. What? I said this trial isn't over yet. Huh! Well, I'm afraid it is over, boy. Not only this trial, but your career too. You purposely concealed this conclusive evidence. That, my friend, is a serious offense. I'm looking forward to pressing charges after the defendant is convicted. I'll have your badge, boy. What's the matter? A cat got your tongue? Aren't you going to tell us how it feels? How it feels to be the one who single-handedly turned a poor little girl into a murderer? before I do that, there's just one little thing I have to clear up. Oh, and what's that? Who really killed Prosecutor Neil Marshall? What? Chief Gant, you are absolutely right. This piece of cloth proves who the real murderer is. Who killed Neil Marshall, you ask? It was Emma Skye, wasn't it? I'm afraid that's not possible. You see, this piece of cloth contains a critical contradiction. What? A contradiction? What is this full babbling about? I'm talking about a contradiction, one that proves who the real killer is. Mr. Wright, this piece of cloth, what could it possibly contradict? Chief Gant, your tyrannical rank ends here. Behold, the piece of evidence that contradicts this cloth. Oh, it's fun watching you squirm, Wright-o. This piece of evidence indeed seems to contradict something, like your outward appearance of mental sanity. What am I doing? If this cloth was cut from the Prosecutor Marshal's vest after he died, then something definitely is not right about it. It's too late to turn back now. You're the only one who could put an end to this, Wright. Chief Gant, you're tyrannical and... And what exactly is this supposed to be? This is the picture Miss Skye took. Take a good look at it. See where the piece of his vest was cut out? Yes, his shirt is showing underneath. It's hard to make out with all the blood on the vest though. Exactly my point. His chest is soaked with blood. That's only natural. His lungs, no doubt, were punctured. Blood poured out of his mouth. Oh. But that piece of cloth. Wait, there's no blood on it. Ah! Since Emma Skye's fingerprints are on this cloth, there's no doubt she shoved the prosecutor aside. However, Mr. Marshall was not impaled on the sword. No, this is nonsense. Now then, Chief Gant, let me ask you something. Prosecutor Marshall was not impaled when he was shoved aside. He most likely hit his head on the ground and was knocked out. If so, then tell me, who could it have been? Who could have arrived at the scene before Miss Skye? Picked up the unconscious prosecutor and impaled him on the armored sword. Then to make it look like Emma was responsible for the prosecutor's death, that person proceeded to write her name on the jar with the victim's blood, then broke the jar on purpose to leave behind a clue, and make Lana believe her sister did it. Remember what? Remember what you admitted only moments ago, that you personally cut out this bloodless piece of the victim's vest. Ironic, is it? Through the very act of creating insurance, you proved that you were the actual murderer. No! It's finished. I knew there was more. Oh, that was a close Wright. You almost had me. Sorry, but you'll have to do better than that. I refute your allegation. What do you mean refute his allegation? You see, that piece of cloth is illegal evidence. Order! What nonsense is this? Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a suspect. Remember, Uji, earlier old Wright over here concealed that piece of cloth. So then, what's your excuse, Wright-o? You do have some conclusive evidence, don't you? Your Honor, I don't have any evidence I could present at this point in time. Well, that's true. The defense did refuse to present evidence. At that moment, that piece of cloth ceased to be legal evidence. But that's not fair! Did you actually think you could best me in court? It looks like the last laugh's on you, son. I'm afraid Mr. Gant's claim is legally correct. Well, Mr. Edgeworth, true. Illegal evidence cannot be used to convict a person, assuming, of course, that the evidence is indeed illegal. Well, Mr. Wright? It seems, at last, the time for me to reveal my plan has finally arrived. Mr. Wright, you admit to it that you purposely and illegally concealed this piece of evidence? Purposefully in. I refuse to present evidence at one point. So the evidence is illegal. No, it isn't, Mr. Gant. Huh? It's not that I didn't present evidence then. It's that I couldn't. What do you mean you couldn't? There are certain procedures involved when presenting evidence. No, Uji, don't listen to his lies. He's nothing but a coward. You can't let him. There is only one issue left to be resolved in this trial. Is this evidence legal or not? Very well, let us settle this once and for all. Earlier, you refused to present evidence. If you could prove your conduct was not in violation of the law, then do so now. Evidence law. Rules for submitting evidence. Rule 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. Rule 2. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case in trial. This is my proof, Your Honor. Evidence law. What's this? I've done my homework too, Chief. Indeed, Emma Sky's fingerprints were on this piece of cloth. However, at that point in time, this was merely a piece of cloth, nothing more. What? You see, it's written right here in this book. The second rule of evidence law. Rule 1. No evidence shall be shown without the approval of the police department. I found this piece of evidence myself inside your safe. It goes without saying I did not have the approval from the police department. Rule 2. Unregistered evidence presented must be relevant to the case in trial. And here is the crucial of the matter. You see, at the time, it was impossible for me to prove the relevance between the cloth and the SL9 incident. What? What kind of nonsense is this? You want relevancy? Just take one look at this picture and... Sorry, but can you recall when was that picture presented? That was shown only a few moments ago. No! He's right. At the beginning of today's trial, that piece of cloth was still meaningless. The person who gave it value as evidence was you, Damon Gant. You yourself confessed to a certain truth. Let me verify this once more. On the day of the crime, you personally cut out this piece of the victim's vest. Oh yes. No! It was then that you approved this cloth as conclusive evidence. Yes, you, the chief of police, personally approved this cloth. The only person who could have cut this from the victim's vest is the one who stood before Prosecutor Marshall in his final moment. In other words, the real murderer, and there's only one person who that could be. Damon Gant. The killer was you. Wow! I knew I should have gotten rid of him. That good-for-nothing scum. For 2 years, he's been snooping around the department trying to get something on me. Crimes are being committed every day, yet he insisted on hounding me. Well, your crime wasn't exactly petty. He wanted to reinvestigate the case. He recruited Angel Star, then convinced Bruce Goodman. Detective Goodman? Yeah, that's right. If the evidence is transferred, I'll lose my only chance to find out the truth. Please, you've got to help me. Goodman turned him down, as he ought to. Still, Jake Marshall didn't know when to quit. He stole Goodman's ID card and tried to take the evidence. Goodman came to me that day. He wanted to file a lost item report. I went with him to the evidence room. Then all of a sudden he had to speak out. What are you talking about, Goodman? Can you please reopen the investigation, Chief? We can't transfer the evidence out. There are too many questions left unanswered. He told me to open up the evidence room and take it out. It's not too late. I'll hand this to Marshall. Well, to be honest, I was a little panicked too. I had a bad feeling about it, but never knew it would come to this. That's when I saw it. That accursed knife. I couldn't just pull it out. You would only increase the amount of blood you could. And you couldn't finish what you started. Even so, the blood was just pouring out. I didn't know who might stumble in, so I was wiping it up. I was worrying so much about the floor, I didn't realize my mistake. Detective Gumshoe's bloody handprint. I used to be known as the crime computer. But everyone has to start somewhere, I guess. I was too nervous. I had no business doing any of it. Then you put the body in my car. I'm sorry, we couldn't think of any other way to move the body. We broke the trunk but what's the big deal? You pulled down a lot more than us detectives. What does it have to do with anything? You're horrible. How could you get Miss Guy involved in all of this? Well, she had as much to lose as I did if the truth came out. So you took the evidence from Detective Goodman's locker. I feel bad for having to do it. I couldn't sit around and pick and choose what to take. Well, you left the jar fragment and gloves. Yeah. It looks like it was better off being an investigator of crime than a committer. They all did their best to get in my way. I've got to hand it to them. They do their jobs well. Much to my dismay. Fake evidence doesn't hold up very well upon close examination. You must have known that. Tell me, Worthy, what are you doing in court? Me? You despise criminals. I can feel it. You and me, we're the same. One day you'll understand. If you want to take them on alone, you'll figure out what's needed. Well, looks like it's time to say goodbye. Oh, Udgy. What? Looks like we'll have to cancel that lunch date. Sorry, old friend. I'm sorry too, Damon Gant. I knew you as you used to be long ago. You were once a fine investigator and an example to the others on the force. I'm sorry to learn that you are no longer that person. Those days are gone now, Udgy. Thanks for all the memories, though. Don't worry, you'll be fine. Now you have Wright here, and Worthy. With these two around, you can't go wrong. You see, if I listen carefully, I can hear it right now. The sound of a new beginning. There are two things I want you to understand. Yes? First, your sister never hurt anyone. Second, Damon Gant betrayed you from the beginning. You see, Miss Guy, you no longer have any reason to keep silent. You're right. When this trial is over, I'll tell everything. All that I've done these past 2 years, from the time I had Gant help me forge evidence up until today. So, it seems all the questions raised in this trial have been answered. I'm sorry, Miss Sky. I couldn't get you out of all your trouble. What high standards you have for a rookie. I could see why Mia thought so highly of you. Who knows, a few years from now, you just might make it to the top. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. Miss Sky, and to you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. Believe me, I know how much of an ordeal it's been for you. It was nothing. Liar. I was worried the pressure might break you, and yet, you rose above it all and guided Mr. Wright to victory. You've done well, Mr. Edgeworth. Stop it. I only did my job. In light of this case, it seems a good self-examining is in order for all of us. Miss Guy, yes, Your Honor, you are innocent of murder. However, although the chief blackmailed you, the fact is you still acted as his accomplice. A trial will be scheduled for these crimes at a later date. Yes, I understand, Your Honor. Is there something amusing about all of this? Why are you smiling? It's been a long time, Your Honor. A long time since I felt free of these heavy chains. Well, this trial has gone on far too long already. Regarding the charge of murder, this court finds the defendant, Miss Lana Sky, not guilty! Yay! That is all. The court is adjourned. Jesus Christ, I'm out of breath from all this. February 25th, 5:03 p.m. Oh my God, it's already in the evening. That's how far it is. This stretched out. District Court Defendant Lobby number 2. At long last, it's finally over. Emma! Why the long face? I'm sorry, your sister didn't get completely off the hook. But at least she wasn't convicted for a murder she didn't commit. No, that's not it. Just now, after the trial ended, I can see why Mia Faith thought so highly of you. I owe you my thanks, Mr. Wright. And you too, Mr. Edgeworth. You've suffered every bit as much as I have over these past few days. You've done well. You know, I did my best too. Well, thanks for watching. Well, I'll probably see the conclusion in the next episode. Until next time, to be continued, baby.